The quiet decline of our internal systems is a risk that most people over the age of 50 simply do not see coming until it is far too late to reverse easily. We live in a world that has taught us to rush through our basic biological functions, turning the act of nourishment into a hurried task rather than a physiological reset. This chronic state of urgency keeps your body trapped in a perpetual fight-or-flight response, which slowly erodes your digestive lining, spikes your cortisol levels, and leaves your immune system vulnerable to the smallest threats. You might think that a bit of indigestion or a restless night is just a standard part of aging, but these are actually the warning sirens of a nervous system that has lost its way. When your body stays in a state of high alert, it stops prioritizing repair and starts focusing solely on survival. This leads to a systemic breakdown where your gut stops absorbing nutrients and your brain loses its ability to signal for deep, restorative rest. What I'm about to share with you is not just a health tip, but a critical intervention for anyone who feels their vitality slipping away. By ignoring the simple biological triggers that govern our health, we are essentially leaving the doors to our well-being wide open for chronic disease to enter. The truth is that your body has an incredible capacity for self-regulation, but it requires a specific set of signals to flip the switch from stress to recovery. For the next 7 days, I want you to reconsider everything you know about supplementation and focus instead on a singular, powerful ritual that targets the very core of your neurological health. This journey began for many when they realized that the simple act of chewing a single clove could do more for their systemic balance than a handful of expensive synthetic vitamins. The shock comes not from the spice itself, but from the realization of how disconnected we have become from our own sensory triggers. If you have been feeling sluggish, bloated, or mentally foggy, you are likely operating under a biological malfunction that can be corrected by re-engaging the nerves in your mouth. This is a warning to those who continue to ignore their body's early signals of distress. Your health is a reflection of your nervous system's tone, and today we begin the process of reclaiming that tone through a method so simple it is often dismissed by the modern medical establishment. We are going to look at how a 90-second ritual can bridge the gap between a stressed-out physical state and a resilient, thriving one. This is about more than just a spice. It is about the profound impact of mindful physiological activation. When you chew a clove slowly, you are not just tasting a pungent flavor. You are sending a direct command to your brain to stand down from its defensive posture and begin the work of healing. If you are ready to stop the silent decay of your internal systems and start a journey of true biological autonomy, you must pay close attention to the mechanisms we are about to explore. The results of this 7-day experiment have shocked many who thought they were beyond help, proving that the body is always waiting for the right signal to heal itself. The ritual of chewing a single clove for 90 seconds is not merely about the ingestion of a spice, but about a calculated neurological intervention that most modern health advice completely overlooks. When you place that dry, woody bud on your tongue, you are initiating a sophisticated biological sequence that begins the moment the first molecules of eugenol touch your taste receptors. This is the 90-second window where the magic happens, a period of time that feels like an eternity in our fast-paced culture but serves as a critical bridge for your nervous system. Most people make the mistake of swallowing pills or gulping down health tonics without giving their brain the sensory data it needs to prepare the body for processing. By choosing to chew slowly and mindfully, you are engaging the cephalic phase of digestion, which is the brain's way of telling the stomach and pancreas to wake up. This phase accounts for up to 30% of your total digestive secretions, yet it is almost entirely bypassed when we eat on the run or rely on flavorless supplements. As you bite down, the pungent oils are released, sending an immediate sharp signal to the cranial nerves. This is a wake-up call for your internal organs. You are essentially telling your body that a complex chemical compound has entered the system and that it needs to mobilize its resources. This deliberate act of slow chewing forces you to pause, breaking the cycle of shallow breathing and high-tension muscle bracing that characterizes a stressful day. For 7 days, this ritual acts as a training ground for your focus. It is a sensory anchor that prevents the mind from drifting into the anxieties of the future or the regrets of the past. As the intensity of the clove builds, you might feel a slight numbness in your mouth, which is a sign that the active compounds are beginning to interact with your local nerve endings. This local effect is just the tip of the iceberg. The real power lies in how this intense sensory input travels to the brainstem, specifically targeting the areas responsible for regulating your involuntary functions. You are practicing a form of biological discipline that reestablishes the connection between your conscious intent and your unconscious physical state. Many who have tried this report a sudden sense of grounding, a feeling that their body is finally being listened to. This isn't just about the nutrients within the clove, it is about the structural integrity of the habit. By dedicating 90 seconds several times a week to this practice, you are building a new neural pathway that prioritizes deliberate action over reactive stress. The shocking results people see after just 1 week are often the result of this newfound neurological clarity. Your digestive enzymes begin to flow more freely, your heart rate variability improves, and your body starts to remember what it feels like to be in a state of prepared rest. This is the foundation of the clove ritual, a gateway to a deeper understanding of how your body responds to the environment you create within your own mouth. It is a return to a more primal, effective way of managing health that relies on the body's own wisdom rather than external chemical crutches. As we move forward, you will see how this simple act of chewing starts a domino effect through every major system in your body, proving that the most profound health shifts often come from the smallest, most intentional changes. The true engine behind the remarkable changes experienced during these 7 days is the profound activation of the vagus nerve, the longest and most complex of the cranial nerves. This wandering nerve acts as a bidirectional superhighway between your brain and your vital organs, serving as the main component of the parasympathetic nervous system. When you engage in the slow, rhythmic chewing of a pungent clove, you are essentially tapping into the control center for your body's rest and digest functions. Modern life keeps most of us in a state of sympathetic dominance, where our heart rates are elevated and our digestive systems are partially shut down due to chronic stress. By the 3rd or 4th day of the clove ritual, the intense sensory input from the spice begins to stimulate the sensory fibers of the vagus nerve located in the throat and mouth. This stimulation sends a clear signal to the brainstem that the environment is safe and that the body can now transition into a state of repair. It is a biological override of the stress response that many have lived with for decades. As the vagus nerve is toned through this repetitive practice, its ability to regulate heart rate variability improves, which is a key marker of longevity and cardiovascular health. You might notice that your breathing naturally deepens and your shoulders drop away from your ears as the nerve signals your muscles to release their tension. This isn't just a feeling of relaxation. It is a measurable shift in your internal chemistry. The vagus nerve also controls the release of stomach acid and digestive enzymes, meaning that by the time you actually eat a meal, your body is chemically prepared to break down and absorb nutrients with maximum efficiency. This is why many people report a sudden disappearance of bloating and acid reflux during their first week. They aren't just treating a symptom, they are restoring the neurological signaling that governs the entire digestive tract. Furthermore, the vagus nerve plays a critical role in controlling inflammation throughout the body. Through what scientists call the cholinergic anti-inflammatory pathway, the nerve releases acetylcholine, which tells the immune system to stop overproducing inflammatory cytokines. This is the hidden mechanism that explains why a simple 90-second chewing ritual can lead to reduced joint pain and clearer cognitive function. You are essentially using the clove as a tool to play your nervous system like a finely tuned instrument. For the elderly, whose vagal tone often naturally declines with age, this manual stimulation is a lifeline. It provides a way to stay grounded and biologically resilient in a world that is constantly trying to push us into a state of panic. The shock of the clove's heat on the tongue is the precise trigger needed to jumpstart this ancient survival mechanism. As you continue the practice, you are not just enjoying the antimicrobial benefits of a spice, you are reclaiming control over the very nerve that dictates how you feel, how you heal, and how you age. This neurological rewiring is the silent foundation upon which all other health improvements are built. By the end of the week, the vagus nerve becomes more responsive, allowing you to return to a state of calm much faster after a stressful event. This resilience is the true prize of the Clove ritual, offering a level of biological autonomy that no medication can provide. The internal transformation that occurs by the fourth day of this ritual centers heavily on the restoration of the gut, without the need for expensive pills or synthetic interventions. Most digestive issues faced by those over 50 are not merely a result of what is being eaten, but a failure of the body to signal the digestive organs to prepare for the arrival of food. This is where the biological mechanism of the early digestive reflex comes into play. When you chew a clove slowly for 90 seconds, your salivary glands are forced into high gear. This saliva is rich in enzymes like amylase and lingual lipase, which begin the breakdown of carbohydrates and fats before they even reach your esophagus. For many seniors, a decline in saliva production is a silent contributor to poor nutrient absorption and chronic indigestion. The intense, pungent oils in the clove act as a powerful secretagogue, a substance that promotes secretion. This process sends a chemical message down to the stomach lining to start producing hydrochloric acid and to the pancreas to release digestive enzymes. By the time the ritual is complete, your entire gastrointestinal tract is pre-activated and ready to function at peak efficiency. This early reflex is a natural defense against the fermentation of undigested food in the gut, which is the primary cause of the gas and bloating that many have come to accept as an inevitable part of aging. As you continue this practice through the middle of the week, you are essentially cleaning out the metabolic sludge that accumulates when the digestive fire is weak. The eugenol in the clove also acts as a selective antimicrobial agent. It helps to prune the overgrowth of harmful bacteria in the small intestine while leaving the beneficial flora intact. This creates a balanced environment where your microbiome can thrive. The shock that many experience is the sudden realization that their long-term digestive struggles were not a permanent condition but a communication breakdown between the mouth and the stomach. You are bypassing the need for antacids and digestive aids by simply allowing your body to follow its original blueprint. This restorative process also impacts the gut-brain axis. As the gut lining becomes less inflamed and more efficient at processing nutrients, the brain receives clearer signals of satiety and nourishment. This reduces the cravings for processed sugars and heavy fats that often plague those with sluggish metabolisms. The biological wisdom of the clove ritual lies in its ability to restart these innate mechanisms that have been suppressed by years of hurried eating and high-stress living. By day 4, you might find that your appetite is more regulated and your energy levels after a meal are significantly higher, because your body is finally getting the fuel it needs without the heavy tax of a struggling digestive system. This is the power of working with your biology rather than against it. You are not just consuming a spice, you are conducting a symphony of digestive secretions that restores your internal environment to a state of youthful efficiency. The clarity and comfort that follow are the direct results of this early reflex activation, proving that the most effective solutions for gut health are often found in the most basic sensory experiences. The transformation reaches a critical peak as we examine the oral gateway to heart and brain health, which is perhaps the most shocking realization for those completing the first 5 days of the clove ritual. While most people associate cloves with fresh breath or the relief of a toothache, the biological reality is far more profound, because the mouth serves as the primary entry point for systemic inflammation. By the 5th day of chewing a single clove for 90 seconds, the potent antiseptic compounds like eugenol have begun to penetrate the deep biofilms that house harmful oral bacteria. This is significant because specific pathogens found in the mouth have been scientifically linked to the development of arterial plaque and cognitive decline in the elderly. When you chew slowly, you are not just masking odors, but you are physically reducing the microbial load that can leak into your bloodstream through microlesions in the gum tissue. This direct antiseptic action provides a massive relief to your immune system, which is often overworked by fighting low-grade infections in the oral cavity. As the inflammation in your gums subsides, The markers of systemic inflammation in your blood also begin to drop. This creates a secondary benefit for your cardiovascular system by reducing the stress on your blood vessels and improving endothelial function. Many seniors find that their thinking becomes sharper and their mental fog begins to lift during this stage of the experiment. This occurs because the reduction in oral inflammation leads to a corresponding decrease in neuroinflammation. The brain is highly sensitive to the inflammatory signals sent from the mouth, and by cleaning this gateway, you are effectively protecting your neurons from oxidative stress. Furthermore, the act of intense chewing increases blood flow to the carotid arteries, which supply the brain with oxygen and glucose. This mechanical stimulation, combined with the chemical power of the clove, creates a dual effect that nourishes the brain while shielding it from harm. You are essentially using a 90-second habit to perform a deep sweep of your internal defenses. The shock comes when you realize that your oral health is not a separate entity from your heart or brain health, but is the very foundation upon which they rest. By day 5, the tissues of your mouth feel tighter and healthier, and this physical sensation is a mirror of the internal repair happening in your arteries. You are bypassing the need for aggressive chemical mouthwashes that kill both good and bad bacteria, and instead using a targeted botanical tool that respects your natural microbiome. This is a crucial distinction for long-term health, as it allows the beneficial bacteria to continue their role in nitric oxide production, which is vital for maintaining healthy blood pressure. The clove ritual thus becomes a comprehensive cardiovascular and neurological shield. It is a testament to the idea that the smallest deliberate actions can have the widest-reaching consequences for our longevity. As you move toward the final days of the week, you are no longer just testing a theory, but you are experiencing a systemic shift in how your body manages its most vital pathways. The connection between the pungent oils on your tongue and the clarity in your mind is a biological truth that remains one of the best-kept secrets of traditional wisdom. As you progress into the 6th day of this experiment, the internal changes shift toward a state of metabolic resurrection and blood sugar stability that many seniors find hard to believe is possible without medication. The secret lies in how the pungent and bitter compounds of the clove interact with the specific receptors on your tongue and throughout your digestive tract. Scientific research has identified that we possess bitter taste receptors not just in our mouths, but also in our gut lining and even in our metabolic organs. When you chew a clove slowly for 90 seconds, you are flooding these receptors with an intense chemical signal that triggers the release of glucagon-like peptide 1. This is a critical hormone that helps regulate insulin secretion and slows down the emptying of the stomach, which prevents the rapid spikes in blood sugar that typically follow a meal. For those who struggle with insulin resistance or the fluctuating energy levels common in middle age, this ritual acts as a natural stabilizer. By activating these metabolic sensors before you eat, you are essentially preparing your cells to receive glucose more efficiently. This means that the energy from your food is directed into your muscles and brain rather than being stored as stubborn, visceral fat. Many participants in this 7-day journey report a sudden decrease in their cravings for sugary snacks and a more consistent level of physical energy throughout the afternoon. This is the result of your body regaining its ability to sense and respond to its own internal chemistry. The shock that comes on day 6 is the realization that your metabolism is not a fixed speed, but a dynamic system that can be recalibrated through sensory input. You are using the pungent heat of the clove to wake up dormant metabolic pathways that have been dulled by years of processed foods and environmental toxins. Furthermore, the phenolic compounds in the clove help to reduce oxidative stress within the liver, which is the primary organ responsible for managing your blood chemistry. As the liver is unburdened from the task of filtering out excessive inflammation, it can focus more effectively on its role in metabolic regulation. This creates a virtuous cycle where your hormones begin to balance out and your systemic inflammation continues to drop. You might notice that the puffiness in your face and hands begins to subside as your body stops retaining excess water linked to high insulin levels. This is a profound shift for the elderly because it directly addresses the root causes of metabolic syndrome without the side effects of pharmaceutical interventions. You are essentially using a 90-second ritual to perform a metabolic reset that would normally take weeks of strict dieting to achieve. The power of the clove in this context is its ability to act as a potent signaling molecule that speaks the language of your endocrine system. By day 6, your body is no longer guessing how to handle the nutrients you provide it, because you have given it a clear and consistent signal of what is coming. This is the definition of biological autonomy, where you take the reins of your own internal environment through a simple and intentional act. The metabolic clarity you feel is a testament to the fact that your body is always ready to return to a state of balance if you provide it with the right tools. As you approach the final days of this transformative week, the most profound shift often occurs during the hours when you are not even conscious. The mastery of your parasympathetic nervous system through the clove ritual directly translates into a state of sleep and immunity that many seniors have not experienced in decades. By the 7th day, your body has become accustomed to the 90-second neurological reset, which acts as a powerful signal to the pineal gland and the immune system. When you perform this ritual in the late afternoon or early evening, you are essentially clearing the path for melatonin production by lowering the circulating levels of cortisol that often keep the elderly awake with racing thoughts or physical restlessness. This is not a sedative effect, but a structural realignment of your circadian rhythm. As you enter a deeper state of REM and slow-wave sleep, your body finally has the physiological resources to engage in cellular repair. This is critical because the immune system performs its most important surveillance and defense work while you are in a state of deep rest. The eugenol and other phenolic compounds you have been introducing to your system have a cumulative effect on your white blood cell activity, making them more efficient at identifying and neutralizing pathogens. You might find that the chronic aches that usually haunt your mornings have begun to dissipate because your body has finally been able to complete its nightly anti-inflammatory cycles. The shock of day 7 is waking up with a sense of vitality that feels like a forgotten memory from your youth. You are no longer dragging yourself through the first few hours of the day because your internal batteries have actually been recharged rather than just temporarily patched. This systemic recovery is the direct result of the vagal tone you have been building, which allows your heart rate to drop to its true resting state during the night. Furthermore, the clove ritual helps to maintain a clear respiratory tract, which is a common concern for the elderly during sleep. The mild expectorant properties of the spice ensure that your airways remain open and your blood remains well oxygenated throughout the night. This prevents the micro-interruptions in sleep that lead to daytime fatigue and cognitive sluggishness. Your immune system is now operating from a position of strength rather than a posture of constant emergency. You have essentially used a simple spice to build a fortress around your health by mastering the transition between activity and recovery. This is the ultimate goal of the 7-day experiment, to prove that your body is a self-healing mechanism that only requires the right environmental and sensory cues to function at its peak. By the end of this week, the relationship between your mind and your physical state has been fundamentally altered. You are no longer a passive observer of your aging process, but an active conductor of your biological resilience. The deep, restorative sleep you enjoy on the 7th night is the final confirmation that your nervous system has accepted this new habit as a baseline for health. As we conclude this 7-day journey of chewing a single clove for 90 seconds, we arrive at the most vital realization of all, which is the reclaiming of your biological autonomy. This experiment was never truly about the spice itself, but about the profound power of intentional sensory triggers to override a lifetime of physiological neglect. By choosing to engage in this ritual several times a week, you have proven to yourself that your health is not a fixed destination or a slow decline into fragility, but a dynamic system that responds to the signals you provide. The elderly in our modern society are often told to accept a loss of control over their bodies, but what you have experienced over the last week is the exact opposite. You have mastered the art of flipping the switch from a state of chronic stress to one of deep restorative healing. You have seen your digestion stabilize, your mental fog lift, and your sleep deepen, all through a 90-second commitment to being present with your own biology. This is the definition of true wisdom, which is the ability to use the simplest tools to achieve the most complex results. The shock that many feel at the end of these 7 days is the sudden awareness of how much of their health is actually within their own hands. You are no longer dependent on external chemical fixes to manage your internal environment, because you have learned how to speak the language of your own nervous system. The pungent heat of the clove was merely the catalyst for a much larger awakening of your innate self-regulation mechanisms. As you move forward from this week, I want you to carry this sense of discipline and awareness into every aspect of your life. Whether it is how you breathe, how you eat, or how you rest, you now have the blueprint for maintaining your dignity and vitality as you age. This ritual has served as a powerful reminder that the body is always listening and that it is never too late to start sending the right messages. You have shifted from a posture of defense to one of resilience, and that is a transition that will serve you for years to come. The health of your heart, your brain, and your gut are now protected by a newfound neurological tone that you have built with your own effort. This is the legacy of the Clove ritual, a return to a more grounded and authoritative way of living. You are the master of your own physical state, and the clarity you feel today is the proof of that mastery. Do not let the simplicity of this practice fool you into returning to your old, hurried ways. Instead, let it be the foundation of a new chapter where you prioritize the small, intentional acts that make long-term wellness possible. You have seen the results for yourself, and now the responsibility lies with you to continue this journey of self-discovery and biological mastery. Your body is a temple of wisdom, and through the simple act of chewing a single clove, you have finally learned how to listen to its voice once again.